I always thought my sister was the one person in the world who would protect me no matter what, but the day I accidentally read her messages, I discovered she had been sharing my secrets for years, turning my pain into jokes, and slowly destroying the trust I built with my whole family. I cheated on Sarah because I thought my sister Emma would understand. I told it was just emotional support, just someone who got me when my fiancé didn't. Emma had always been my confidant, my safe harbor in every storm. When I started texting Melissa from work, when those texts turned flirty, when I started meeting her for coffee that turned into drinks that turned into hotel rooms, I justified it all by telling Emma everything. She listened, she never judged. She even laughed when I joked about Sarah's quirks. That should have been my first red flag. Last Tuesday, Emma left her phone on my kitchen counter when she went to use the bathroom. A notification popped from our family group chat, the one I'd been mysteriously removed from 6 months ago. Mom, it said, followed by, did he really think she wouldn't find out eventually? Some men are just, my turn to ice water. I opened her messages before I could stop, before I could think about privacy or trust or any of the things that apparently meant nothing in my family anymore. The group chat was called Drama Updates, and it had been active for 2 years. 2 years. Mom, Dad, Emma, my brother Jake, even my cousin Lisa. Everyone except me. The first message I saw was from 3 days ago. Emma, update on the cheating saga. He's planning to propose next month. Should I tell Sarah? This is getting too messy even for me, lol. Mom's response, let it play out. Men like him always get what's coming to them. I scrolled with shaking hands. Months of messages, years of them. Emma, 6 months ago, he's crying again about feeling disconnected from Sarah. Bro literally has a girlfriend on the side but somehow sees the problem. The delusion is real. Jake always knew he was selfish. Remember how he treated Jess in high school? Emma, oh that's Nadim compared to this. He told me yesterday he thinks Melissa might be the one. I can't even. Dade, Sarah's a good girl. Someone should warn her. Emma, I've been dropping hints but she's so in love it's honestly sad to watch. I kept scrolling. My entire relationship with Sarah dissected and mocked. Every vulnerable moment I'd shared with Emma, every doubt, every fear, every joke about Sarah's cooking or her family or the way she snored sometimes. All of it shared, all of it twisted into entertainment for people who were supposed to love me. But it got worse. Emma, 8 months ago, he's having panic again. Keeps saying he doesn't deserve Sarah. If only he knew how right he is, Woo. Emma, a year ago, thinks I'm on his side. Honestly, it's fascinating watching someone self-destruct this slowly. It's like a car crash can't look away from. Emma, 18 months ago. Mom should have seen his face when I told him Sarah was probably talking to her ex. The paranoia is unreal. Maybe if he wasn't cheating he wouldn't assume everyone else is. That last one hit different. Emma had lied to me. Told me Sarah was texting her ex Marcus when Sarah never was. I'd spent weeks anxious checking Sarah's phone when she showered, picking fights about nothing. Emma had planted that seed deliberately. She'd been orchestrating my paranoia, my guilt, my spiral. I heard the bathroom door open and quickly closed her phone, setting it back where she'd left it. When Emma walked back into the kitchen, I was sitting at the table staring at my coffee like nothing had happened. Okay bro, look pale. The concern in her voice made me sick, the same tone she'd used for 2 years while collecting my secrets like trading cards. Just tired, I managed. She nodded sympathetically. Been stressed about the proposal plans. Sarah's gonna love whatever do. Know that right? 2 are solid. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her shoulders and shake her until she explained how she could sit there and comfort me while simultaneously planning my destruction with our entire family. Instead I nodded and let her hug me goodbye. That night Sarah made her famous lasagna, the one Emma had helped her mock in dozens of messages. Too much cheese, Emma had written. And she always burns the edges but gets so proud of herself. It's actually kind of pathetic. I watched Sarah pull the perfectly golden lasagna from the oven, watched her face light with pride, watched her serve me an extra large piece because she knew I'd had a rough day. Sister called earlier, Sarah said, settling across from me with her own plate. She wanted to make sure we're feeling better. We're so lucky to have someone who cares about that much. I almost choked on my bite. Sarah kept talking, chatting about her day, about the wedding venue we'd looked at last weekend, about how Emma had offered to help with the planning. Every word was a twist. After dinner while Sarah did dishes, I locked in our bedroom and called Melissa. I need to see tonight, I said when she picked. Everything okay? No, nothing's okay. Can meet me at the hotel. 3 hours later, I was in bed with the woman who'd been helping me cheat on my fiancé for 8 months, and all I could think about was how Emma probably already knew exactly where I was. I spent the next week living in. Every family interaction became a performance where I was the only one who didn't know the script. Sunday dinner at my parents' house was, Emma sat across from me making jokes about commitment and loyalty while Mom and Dad exchanged knowing looks. Jake kept asking pointed questions about Sarah, how she was doing, whether I was treating her right. My cousin Lisa, who I barely saw anymore, suddenly wanted to know all about my relationship status, and whether I was happy. They were circling me like vultures and I was supposed to sit there eating roast and pretending everything was normal. The worst part was watching how they treated Sarah. She'd joined us for dinner, radiant and excited about wedding planning, and everyone was so kind to her, so protective. Mom kept pulling her aside for girl talk. Dad offered to help with anything she needed. Emma complimented her dress and asked about her job and laughed at all her stories. It was like watching people comfort a lamb before. After dinner, Emma cornered me in the garage while everyone else was in the living room. Seem off lately, she said. Want to talk about it? The audacity was breathtaking. She was literally asking me to confess so she could run back to the group chat with fresh material. Just work stress. I lied. Come on, it's me. Can tell me anything, know that. The thing is, I had known that. For 28 years I'd believed Emma was my person. My twin born 2 minutes after me, the only one who really understood what it was like to grow in our family. She'd been my ally through our parents' messy divorce, my cheerleader through college, my sounding board through every relationship. When I'd started dating Sarah 3 years ago, Emma was the first person I called after our first kiss. When I'd decided to propose, Emma helped me pick out the ring. When I'd started having doubts, started feeling trapped, started looking elsewhere for connection, Emma was the one who listened without judgment, or so I'd thought. Actually, I heard saying, there is something. Her eyes lit. Literally lit. I've been thinking about what said last month, about how sometimes people grow apart. About how it's better to be honest than to stay in something that isn't working. I was testing her, setting a trap. Emma had never said anything like that to me, but I wanted to see if she'd pretend she had. Oh, absolutely, she said without missing a. It's too short to be unhappy, no. If we're having doubts about Sarah, should really think about what that means. She was so good at this, so smooth. No wonder I'd never suspected anything. The thing is, I continued, I think I might be in love with someone else. Emma's face was the picture of sisterly concern. Oh honey, that's complicated. Who is she? Just someone from work. Her name's Melissa. I think it's real, not just no. Excitement from something new. I almost laughed at how perfectly she was playing her role. The supportive sister helping me work through my feelings while probably composing tomorrow's group chat update in her head. I think it might be, I said. I think I might need to end things with Sarah. Emma put her hand on my arm. That's a really big decision. Are sure ready for that. The fallout's gonna be intense. Sarah's gonna be devastated. And mom and dad love her. Everyone does. What would do? If were me. Honestly, I think need to be true to. If we're not happy with Sarah, if found something real with this Melissa person, then staying engaged would be cruel to everyone involved. Sarah deserves someone who's all in. No. I nodded like she was giving me profound wisdom instead of encouraging me to so she'd have better stories to tell. Will support me no matter what, right? I asked. Even if everyone else hates me for it. Emma squeezed my arm. Always. Or my brother. I love no matter what. I drove home that night knowing I was about to become the main character in my family's favorite soap opera. Emma would go straight home and update the group chat. They'd all discuss my confession, analyze my motives, predict my next moves. Sarah would be the innocent victim and I'd be the villain, and Emma would be right in the middle of it all, playing both sides while everyone praised her for being such a good sister. The next morning, I woke before Sarah and made a decision. I called in sick to work and spent the day getting my affairs in order. I opened a separate bank account and transferred half our savings. I called a lawyer about separating our assets. I looked at apartment listings and made appointments to view places. If my family wanted a show, I'd give them one. That evening I sat Sarah down in our living room. We need to talk, I said. She knew immediately. Maybe it was my tone, maybe it was the way I couldn't look at her directly, maybe it was just intuition. Her face went white, relieving me. It wasn't a question, Sarah, there's someone else. Also not a question. I nodded because lying seemed pointless now. She was quiet for a long time. Just sat there on our couch, the one we'd picked out together at IKEA last year, staring at her hands. How long? She finally asked. 8 months. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Is it serious? I think so. Yes. More silence. Outside, our neighbors were grilling burgers and their kids were playing in the yard. Normal people living normal lives while I destroyed mine 30 feet away. I need to leave, Sarah said quietly. Tonight. I can't look at right now. I'd already packed a bag. It was in my car. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. I never meant to point. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes. Yes, did, she said. Maybe not at first, but every day for 8 months chose to keep me. Every morning woke next to me and chose to lie. Every time said loved me and chose to betray me. Every time we talked about the wedding and chose to let me plan a future that knew wasn't going to happen. So don't tell me never meant to me. That's the biggest lie of all. I left that night and drove straight to Melissa's apartment. She wasn't expecting me, but she let me in and held me while I cried and told her everything was going to be different now. I didn't tell her about Emma. About the group chat. About how my entire family had been watching me self-destruct for entertainment. That felt like a problem for future me. Future me turned out to be him who thought the worst was behind him. The fallout was swift and brutal. Sarah told her parents first, then mine. Within 48 hours everyone knew. The group chat Emma had excluded me from exploded with activity, and suddenly I was getting texts from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Aunt Carol, disappointed, doesn't begin to cover it. Uncle Mike, that girl was too good for anyway. My grandmother, I raised better than this. But the family reactions were nothing compared to what happened at work. Sarah and I had friends in common, couple friends, coworkers who knew both of us. A word spread fast in our small office, and suddenly everyone knew I was the guy who cheated on his fiancée for 8 months and left her for his coworker. Melissa handled it worse than I expected. She'd signed to be the other woman, not the public homewrecker. When people started looking at her differently, when the office gossip turned, when Sarah's friends started leaving scathing reviews on her social media accounts, she began having second thoughts. Maybe we should take a break, she said 2 weeks after I'd left Sarah. Heard. Break. Just Cooperary. Until people move on to the next drama. We were in her apartment, the same one where I'd run after destroying my engagement. Looking around, I realized I barely knew this woman. Her walls were covered with inspirational quotes and photos of her with friends I'd never met. Her bookshelves held romance novels and self-help guides. Her refrigerator was covered in takeout menace because she never cooked. I'd left Sarah, who made me homemade soup when I was sick and knew exactly how I liked my coffee and had memorized all my favorite movies, for someone who was essentially a stranger. How temporary? I asked. Melissa shrugged. I don't know. However long it takes for this to over. It never blew over. 3 weeks later, Melissa started dating someone from her yoga class. She didn't tell me directly. I found out when Jake sent me screenshots from her Instagram. She'd posted photos of herself with some bearded guy, both of them laughing and hiking and doing all the couple things we'd never actually done together. Looks like soulmate moved on, Jake texted. That was quick. I stared at the photos for hours. Melissa looked happy. Actually happy, not the guilty, secretive version of happy she'd been with me. She looked like someone who wasn't carrying the weight of someone else's destroyed. That night, I called Emma. I know how that sounds. But she was still my sister, still the only person who'd ever really known me, and I was spiraling so hard I couldn't think straight. I said when she answered. Melissa's gone. Sarah won't talk to me. Everyone hates me. I don't know what to do, oh honey, Emma said, and her voice was so warm, so familiar. I'm sorry, I know this is hard. I thought she was different. I thought Melissa understood me. People aren't always who we think they are, Emma said. Sometimes we project what we want onto them instead of seeing who they really are. The irony was lost on me then. I was so desperate for comfort that I missed the double meaning entirely. Can we meet? I asked. I just need to talk to someone who gets it. Of course. Tomorrow night, dinner. We met at a chain restaurant across town somewhere neither of us usually went. Emma was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth, scrolling through her phone. Family group chat, I asked as I sat down. She looked sharply. What? We're smiling at phone. Figured it must be the family group chat. No, the one I'm not in. Emma's face changed. Just slightly, but I caught it. What family group chat? Come on, Em. I know there's a group chat I'm not in. Jake mentioned it months ago and then got weird when I asked about it. She was quiet for a long moment, studying my face. There's a family chat, she finally admitted. But it's mostly just mom sharing photos of her garden and dad complaining about sports. Or not missing anything, such a casual lie, so smooth. Why am I not in it? Never wanted to be in the family stuff before, we just assumed weren't interested. Another lie. I'd been asking to be added to family group chats for years. We ordered food and talked about safe topics. My job, her job, mom's upcoming birthday. But I kept watching her face, looking for tells, trying to figure out what she was thinking. After dinner, as we walked to our cars, I took a chance. Emma, can I ask something? Sure. That night left phone at my place last month. I saw a notification from a group chat. It said something about me and Sarah. She stopped walking. What? I didn't read it, I lied. But it seemed like guys were talking about my relationship. Is the family worried about me? Is that why I'm not in the chat? Emma was very still for a very long time. We just want to be happy, she said finally. Sometimes that means having conversations about what's best for behind my back. Not behind back. We're trying to look out for pun. Be excluding me from family conversations about my own bind. Be not making feel judged or pressured when already struggling. It was such a perfect answer. So reasonable. If I hadn't read those messages, I might have even believed her. What do they say about me? I asked. In the chat, honestly, everyone's worried. I've been different the last couple years. More secretive, more defensive. Mom thinks her depressed. Dad thinks her having some kind of quarter crisis. We all think deserve better than to feel so unhappy all the time. She was so good at this. Turning my family's mockery into concern, their entertainment into care. And Sarah, do they talk about Sarah? They love Sarah. Know that. They think she's good for past tense. Emma sighed. Yeah. Thought. They're pretty upset about what happened. Are upset. I'm upset that are in pain. I'm upset that Sarah's. I'm upset that felt like couldn't talk to any of us before it got this far. But I had talked to her. I'd told her everything. I'd confessed every doubt, every moment of temptation, every step toward betrayal. She'd listened and advised and supported me right off the cliff. I did talk to, I said. I told everything, told me we're having doubts, didn't tell me we're cheating, because I thought try to stop me. Emma looked at me for a long moment. Would have wanted me to. The question hit me like a physical. Would I have wanted her to stop me? Would I have listened if she'd told me I was making the biggest mistake of my... If she'd said Melissa was using me, that I was throwing away something real for something, that I'd regret it for the rest of my... Maybe. Probably. Emma was the only person whose opinion had ever really mattered to me. Yes, I said. I think I would have. I'm sorry, she said, and she actually looked sorry. I thought knew what we're doing. I thought figured something out that I couldn't see. We hugged goodbye in the parking lot, and for a moment, it felt like old times. Like we were still the team we'd always been. Driving home to my studio apartment, I almost convinced that maybe I'd misunderstood the group chat messages. Maybe they really had been trying to help me. Maybe Emma really had been looking out for me in her own way. Then I got home and found a letter from Sarah's lawyer. She was keeping the house. And the car. And most of the furniture. She wanted the engagement ring back and half the money I'd spent on Melissa over the last 8 months. She'd calculated it down to the penny. Hotel rooms, dinners, gifts, gas money for drives to see her. But the real gut punch was at the bottom of the letter. Additionally, my client wishes to inform that she is pregnant. The child was conceived in late April. She will not be seeking any support or involvement from, but wanted to know that actions have consequences beyond the immediate dissolution of relationship. April. I'd been cheating for 3 months by then. Sarah had been pregnant and planning our wedding and dealing with my increasingly erratic behavior, and I'd been so wrapped in my affair that I'd missed all the signs. I called Emma immediately. Sarah's pregnant. I said when she answered. Silence. Did hear me. Sarah's pregnant. Did know. More silence. Emma. Did. No. She told mom last week. And no one thought to tell me. She asked us not to. She said she needed time to figure out what she wanted to do. What she wanted to do. It's my child too. Is it? The question stopped me cold. What the does that mean? We're cheating for 8 months. How do know the baby's yours? The accusation was like a between my ribs. Sarah had never cheated. Sarah barely looked at other men. Sarah had been completely, devastatingly faithful while I'd been someone else 3 times a week. Sarah's not like me, I said quietly. No, Emma agreed. She's not. We hung and I sat in my empty apartment thinking about Sarah carrying my child. About how she'd found out she was pregnant sometime in the last few months, while I was telling her I loved her and then going to hotel rooms with Melissa. About how she'd probably been excited, probably started making plans, probably imagined telling me the news. About how instead of getting to share that joy with her fiancé, she'd gotten to discover his betrayal and make the devastating choice to raise our child alone. I tried calling Sarah. She'd blocked my number. I tried going to the house. She'd changed the locks. I tried reaching out through mutual friends. They all told me to respect her wishes and leave her alone. For 2 months, I heard nothing. Then Jake texted me a photo. Sarah at her baby shower, surrounded by all our old friends and both our families. She was glowing, radiant, one hand on her rounded belly while she opened gifts. Everyone was smiling and laughing and celebrating. Everyone except me. I wasn't there. I'd never been invited. I was the absent father, the cheater. The one who'd walked away from everything good in his for a woman who'd dumped him the minute things got difficult. The baby was born on a Tuesday in December. I found out from Facebook. Sarah had posted a single photo, tiny fingers wrapped around her thumb, with the caption, "Worth every minute of the wait." I stared at that photo for hours. My daughter's fingers. My child who would grow knowing that her father had chosen another woman over her mother. Who would someday ask why daddy wasn't around. Herd and Sarah would have to explain that some men just aren't built for commitment. I tried to visit them at the hospital. Security asked me to leave. I sent flowers, they were returned. I started a college fund for the baby. The bank told me Sarah had refused to provide the information needed to set it. She wanted nothing from me, nothing at all. Emma came to see me the week after the baby was born. Her name is Claire. She said. She looks like. Have seen her. We all have. Sarah brought her by mom and dad's yesterday. Of course she had. Sarah was still family. The grandchild was still family. I was the outsider now. Does Sarah need anything? Money? Help with the baby? Anything? Emma shook her head. She's got it handled. Mom's helping with childcare so Sarah can go back to work. Dad's fixing the nursery. Jake's putting together the crib. We're all pitching in. The family was rallying around Sarah and my daughter. Taking care of them. Being there for them. Everything I should have been doing. What about me? I asked. Am I still family? Emma was quiet for a long time. Do you want to be? Of course I want to be. Because it doesn't look like that from the outside. It looks like chose a different, and now that fell apart want to come back to the one away. It's not that simple. Isn't it though? She was right. It was exactly that simple. I made a mistake, I said. The biggest mistake of my. But I'm still brother. I'm still Claire's father. Being Claire's father isn't about biology. It's about showing. And didn't show when it mattered. I want to show now. For who? For Claire who doesn't know exist. For Sarah, who betrayed and abandoned. Or for Heard because lonely and realized what lost. I didn't answer because we both knew the truth. Emma left that night and I didn't see her again for months. I spent Christmas alone in my apartment, looking at photos of my family celebrating with Sarah and Claire. New Year's Eve alone. My birthday alone. Melissa had moved to Portland with the bearded guy. My friends had all chosen sides and they hadn't chosen mine. My coworkers treated me professionally but coolly. My family included Sarah in everything and me in nothing. I was completely, utterly alone. 6 months after Claire was born, I finally understood what Emma had been doing all along. I'd run into Sarah's best friend at the grocery store. Maya had been one of my favorite people when Sarah and I were together. But she'd barely spoken to me since the breakup. How's Sarah? I asked. How's the baby? Maya looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. They're doing great. No thanks to, no, and I know I her. But she won't let me try to make things right. Make things right? Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. Think there's a way to make this right? I could try. I could be a father to Claire. I could support them financially. I could have thought about that before spent 8 months lying to her face. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick milk. A mistake is being late for dinner. What did was a choice. Chose to cheat. Chose to lie. Chose to let her plan a wedding while we're someone else. Chose to let her get pregnant while we're emotionally checked out. Made 1,000 choices, and every single one of them was selfish. She was right, but hearing it laid out so starkly still felt like getting hit by a truck. Sister tried to warn her no, Maya said my turn to ice. What? Emma. She tried to warn Sarah that we're pulling away. That seemed like we're hiding something. Sarah defended. Said Emma didn't understand relationship, that we're just stressed about work. The world tilted sideways. Emma tried to warn her. Multiple times. She even suggested Sarah might want to postpone the wedding until seemed more committed. Sarah got upset and told Emma to back off. I felt like I was going to throw. When did this happen? Months before Sarah found out about affair. Emma could see what was coming way before the rest of us. Emma hadn't been encouraging me to cheat. She'd been trying to save Sarah from getting worse. All those conversations where I thought she was supporting my affair, she'd been gathering information to protect my fiancé. She knew, I whispered. Of course she knew. Or her brother. She could tell we're being shady. But she never told me to stop. Maya stared at me like I'd grown a second head. She wasn't moral guardian, she was trying to protect Sarah from getting her heart broken by someone who was clearly already checked out. Unfortunately, Sarah loved too much to listen. I drove home in a daze, everything I thought I knew about the last year rearranging itself in my head. Emma hadn't been my enabler, she'd been Sarah's ally. The family group chat wasn't mocking me for entertainment, they were trying to figure out how to minimize the damage I was about to cause. Emma's advice to be true to wasn't encouragement to cheat, it was her hoping I'd end things with Sarah before I her worse. Every conversation I'd had with my sister, I'd misread completely. That night I called her. Maya told me tried to warn Sarah, I said when she answered. Long pause. Maya shouldn't have. Why didn't tell me? Tell what? That knew I was cheating. That we're trying to protect her. Because weren't ready to hear it. We're so wrapped in own drama that couldn't see past own feelings. Anything I said would have just pushed further away. So let me think we're on my side. I was on side. I wanted to figure out what would make happy before destroyed everything good in. I hoped to come to senses and either commit to Sarah or let her go cleanly. Instead I did the worst possible thing. Instead did exactly what I was afraid to. Oh, we were both quiet for a while. The group chat, I said finally. How long has that been going on? Since started dating Sarah. 3 years. We weren't talking about behind back. We were trying to figure out how to help. We're so secretive, so defensive about everything. We didn't know what was wrong, but we knew something was off. Could have just asked me. We did ask. Said everything was fine. Said Sarah was fine. Said work was fine. Said we're fine. But we're clearly not fine. She was right. I had deflected every attempt at conversation, brushed off every expression of concern, insisted I was handling everything when I was clearly handling nothing. The night I left Sarah, I said, when I called from Melissa's. Did know where I was. I knew weren't home. Had already called mom crying. And still talked to me. Still comforted me. We're my brother. We're in pain. I was in pain because I'd caused pain. Yes, but we're still in pain. I started crying then. Not the angry tears I'd been crying for months, but deep body shaking sobs that came from somewhere I'd been avoiding. I destroyed everything, I said through the crying. Everything good in I destroyed it. Yeah, Emma said softly. Did. Sarah won't let me see Claire. She won't let me be a father. Can blame her. No, but I don't know how to live with that. Figure it out, day by day. The same way Sarah's figuring out how to be a single mother. The same way Claire's going to figure out how to grow without a father. The same way all the people are figuring out how to move forward. What if I can't, then can't, but that's not Sarah's problem anymore. That's not Claire's problem. That's not our family's problem. That's problem. She was right. Again, I miss her, I said. I miss what we had. I know. I think about her every day. About Claire. About the we could have had. I know. Do you think there's any chance? No, Emma said firmly. There's no chance. Sarah's moved on. She's building a for herself and Claire that doesn't include. The kindest thing can do is let her. Then what do? Learn to live with the consequences of choices. Figure out how to be a person who can live with what done. Get therapy. Work on. Try to become someone who wouldn't make the same mistakes again. And then what? And then nothing. There's no redemption arc here. There's no grand gesture that fixes everything. There's just learning to live with. We talked for another hour, and by the end, I understood something I'd been avoiding for months. I wasn't the victim in this story. I wasn't the misunderstood protagonist whose family had turned against him. I wasn't the heartbroken hero who'd lost everything for love. I was the villain. The one who'd caused the pain. The one who'd made the choices that everyone I claimed to care about. And villains don't get happy endings. The next morning, I started looking for therapists. Not because I thought it would win anyone back, but because Emma was right. I needed to figure out how to live with what I'd done. It took 3 years of therapy before I could get through a day without thinking about Sarah and Claire. 5 years before I could see photos of them on social media without feeling like someone was twisting it in my chest. 7 years before I stopped hoping that Sarah would change her.